It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Weber State head softball coach, Coach Kristin Delahoussaye. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you want to get started in coaching in college softball?
Um, I had kind of been coaching a little bit, even like through high school. I'd been like giving lessons to younger kids, and things like that. So coaching has kind of always been something I've been really passionate about. I love working, especially one-on-one with people, but college coaching has been awesome to be a part of. And I don't know that I've ever really planned to do a lot else. I don't know that I'm qualified to do a lot else.
What was that experience like going to BYU and getting to put on that jersey and representing them?
It was super fun. I mean, my experience at BYU was we played good softball. I made great friends. We learned a lot of things together. It was a really good time, and I have lifelong friends from that.
What was that experience like after college getting into coaching and getting your first coaching job?
Well, my first coaching job was down at Dixie at the time. It's called Utah Tech now, but it was called Dixie State at the time. And working for Randy Simpkins down there was a great way for me to start my career. He taught me a lot about how to just take control of things. He allowed me to work my way through a process. He asked me to teach outfield, which is a position I've never played before, but I had to do a lot of research. I had to learn a lot. I had to be a little bit vulnerable. So it was super fun to work with him and get to learn from him in that experience.
While at Dixie State, what were some of the things that you learned to help you along your journey?
I think when he asked me to teach outfield, I obviously was like, of course I could figure that out, but I was a little bit like I was a terrible outfielder. I'm not a good out. I'm an infielder. I'm a catcher. I don't know what to do. And so it taught me to be open-minded enough that I needed to learn more. In coaching, you're always learning new things. There's always new ways to do things. Like the kids become different as they get older. You have to adapt and adjust. And so I think coaching with him allowed me to do that right from the get-go. I wasn't really in a place where I was an expert on the topic that I was going to teach. I had to learn a lot about it. And it also allowed me to learn that sometimes your players know as much as you do, and sometimes they know more. It's okay to ask them. It's okay to pick their brain. It's okay. They all come from great backgrounds and great experiences, and they can help teach you just as much as you can teach them.
As a coach, what was that feeling like when you got that call from your alma mater to return back home as a coach?
It was fun. I was excited to go. I was excited to make a difference where I had played, and it was an exciting experience for me.
What was that experience like coaching at BYU?
Kind of the same as playing there. Like we were on a big stage, we were playing big teams, and it gave me the opportunity to help young players, young women find themselves and use softball to become stronger and more powerful women that were capable of doing anything they could have possibly wanted.
For you, what was that feeling like stepping onto that softball field as a coach at your alma mater versus when you were a player?
I think it's exciting to have the experience to think that you can make a difference in a program that you've already had an impact on. You can only impact it a certain way as a player. You can never impact it the same way again as a coach, but you can impact it differently. And so it was a great experience to get to go through both of those and be able to leave a mark in both aspects of the game.
First coming to Weber State, what was that experience like for you as assistant coach?
It was really cool to get to coach for Mary Kay Amicone. She was the head coach at the time, and she is like Utah softball, like travel ball, the community college level, D1 level. Like she has kind of like laid the groundwork for a lot of softball that has happened in Utah, and to get to coach for her and learn from her was an awesome experience, and it taught me a lot about not necessarily a lot about who I wanted to be. I think her and I were kind of the same as far as like having similar goals, but she gave me a good roadmap and gave me good experience to learn how I wanted to do it, which was awesome.
Of course, in 2024, what was that feeling like getting promoted to become the next head coach?
It was exciting. It's something I've worked for my whole life. It's something I've always wanted to do. It's something I've been preparing for. Um, I turned down some other opportunities before that, and because I knew that these were the people that I wanted to work with. This was the place that I wanted to do it at. Um, and I wanted to make sure that the legacy that Coach Amicone has built here at Weber is continued on moving forward.
How was that feeling after you got promoted to step onto that field and take over the program?
Honestly, a little bit nerve-wracking. I was pretty prepared, and I think I knew what I wanted. I knew the what direction I wanted to go about it, but when you've never done it, you've just never done it. And so you can be as prepared as you want, but the first time you do it is a little bit different. And it was great. We got the jitters out. I mean, our my softball team is amazing. They're very patient with me as I work to it. My staff is awesome. So again, it's had its little bit of nerves. It's had a lot of excitement. It's had a lot of learning moments. So it's been really fun.
Being a first time head coach, what has that been like getting to build your coaching staff around you and the players around you?
It's been really fun. I mean, I was a big part of our recruiting here at Weber anyways, and so the players that I have here are the players that I want here, which is an experience that a lot of head coaches don't get to have when they take over a program. You kind of just get what's there. But I was a huge part of recruiting the kids that are here. I believe in them, they believe in me, and that's a really, really cool dynamic to have. As far as our staff is concerned, I mean, Addie is awesome, Josie is awesome, John is awesome, and they do things that I can't do. They're super open and honest with me. They tell me I'm crazy sometimes, and that's what I ask, and we have a really good time making each other better and making our players better.
What does a typical game day look like for you as a coach versus for your players?
I mean, for me, it's a little bit more about the pregame preparation. I mean, we've gone through all the scouting reports, we've gone through all the things beforehand, but that's like the week before. I mean, me and Coach Eddie have been going through scouting reports for the last 3 days, just trying to get ready for this weekend. We're going to play 5 different teams. We've got a plan for how we're going to attack their hitters, a plan for the lineups we want to face against each pitcher, but that's a lot of like pre-game day preparation. The actual game day preparation on game day for me is pretty simple. We show up, we either have our hitting cage first or hitting cage second time. I throw BP, the other coaches hit ground balls. I write a lineup, then we get after it. So, but it's a little less hectic for me as far as what I have to do. We've already done all that prep work beforehand.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you're starting to build for Weber State softball?
Yeah, so I took over a very strong culture, and again, Coach Amicone and I were pretty much on the same page with what we wanted and how we wanted to do it, and the type of people that we wanted here, which was great. Some of the things that we're really, really focused on this year, and that will probably continue as our culture is we're big on failing at 100%. We're not going to play scared. We're not going to go backwards. We're not going to hesitate, make mistakes, but do it at 100%, and then we won't make that mistake again. That's really, really been big for us. Another big one I think for us is we talk a lot about building relationships and the like culture of like the family and the team aspect of that. And I think that has been huge for our players as far as working through adversity and we call it fighting our demons. Like every once in a while, you just have that little voice in the back of your head that says, "Are you sure you're good enough? Are you sure you can do it?" And because they've worked hard and we've tried to help them learn how to build those relationships, they can be vulnerable with each other and say, "Man, I don't know. I'm feeling it a little bit today. I don't know if I'm good enough." And the first thing that happens is somebody jumps in and says, "No, you are good." And they hype them up and they get them prepared. And I mean, the body language is awesome. The confidence is there, and we're still learning and growing in that aspect a little bit. But they're doing such a good job at embracing challenges, embracing hard times, embracing the sucky stuff that happens sometimes, and just together moving forward as a team.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Portland State and Utah Valley comes to home versus going away to San Diego?
Um, Being at home is nice. It's nice to sleep in your own bed. It's nice to have your fans here. because we play most of our games on the road, I don't know that it's fair to say we have a home field advantage. I mean, we play maybe 20 games at home at the most in a 56 game season. So we get really good at playing on the road, and playing at home is actually kind of like, oh, it's nice to sleep in my own bed. It's nice to know where all my stuff is. It's nice to have the cages set up exactly the way we want them set up. But it really doesn't change the way that we approach the game at all.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you see?
So there's only 6 of us in the conference. So there's us, Montana, Portland State, Sac State, Idaho State, and Northern Colorado.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play college softball?
We talk about this a lot with people that ask us this question. There's not always a perfect answer. I think you got to figure out one of the biggest things I tell kids is they got to figure out what they want to do and who they really want to be without softball. If softball wasn't a factor, would you be happy at that school? If softball wasn't what you were going to do, is this where you would want to be? If you started playing softball and then got hurt and couldn't play anymore, would you stay here? Because I think we get this kind of dream that softball is always going to be awesome and everything's going to be great. We're never going to have a hard time. And the reality is softball is hard. Softball beats us up a little bit and it's tough. And if you're not in a place that you love to be with people that you love to be around doing the thing that you want to accomplish, it only makes it 10 times harder.
As a head coach, what do you look at in those prospective student athletes looking to play?
We're always looking for the biggest heart. We want people who want to win, who want to play, who want to scrap and fight, be gritty, and find a way to, no matter what, win a ball game. They have to have the physical skills, obviously. They have to be able to hit balls, they have to be able to throw, they got to be able to do all the physical stuff. But Weber State softball players are gritty. They want to win, they want to compete, they want to take advantage of opportunities. They're not waiting for something to be given to them. And so that's a big deal for us when we look for recruiting.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those prospective student athletes putting on that softball jersey for the first time as freshmen?
It's actually a really cool experience. It's fun to see them get excited and get all work. This is what they've worked for their whole lives. It's what they have worked to accomplish. It's what we've tried to help them get to. And so while it's not the end of the process, like your journey in life to get better and become the best is never over. Softball is just one piece of that puzzle, but watching them put the jersey on for the first time is a huge accomplishment for them. They've spent so many of their lives and their years just trying to get to this point.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those players achieve those big milestones in their careers as freshmen?
Well, I mean, whether they're freshmen or whether they're seniors, like watching them get better at something, watching them achieve something that they weren't good at to start with is awesome. It's so empowering to them. It's so empowering for their future life as well. It's one thing to show up and just play good softball, but to show up and play good softball and get better at something that you're not good at or that you thought you weren't good at, or to overcome a fear that you always thought you would never be good enough at something, just sets them up in life to accomplish so many more things. And it allows them to teach that skill to other people as well.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those seniors putting on that jersey for the last time representing Weber State?
Oh, that one's always tough. You gotta, you have senior day, which is like the big day. All their families are here. It's their last home game most of the time. And it can get a little bit emotional afterwards for sure, because you're just so proud of what they've accomplished, what they've worked through. And I think that's something that's missing in a lot of like your guys' outside perspective of what's gone on inside our program is they've overcome things that aren't just softball. They've overcome tough things in the classroom, tough things in life, tough things in their mental game, that watching them get to that final game, watching them get to the very end of their career and seeing all the things that they've accomplished, it's a proud moment. It's a sad moment. You don't want to see them go. You feel like you could just have them forever. If they could just stay forever, they would be awesome. But it's it's just one more of those checkpoints, one more of those milestones in their lives that they're prepared to go out and do things outside of softball now that they've done this and that they've accomplished all the things that they have here. So it's a bittersweet feeling that last time.
As a head coach, what is it like getting to see your softball players going on, whether it's going playing professional softball in Athletes Unlimited or going into coaching?
I have not actually had any play professional softball in like Athletes Unlimited, but I've had some of my previous players play overseas in some of the like on an Italian team, a Norwegian team, like a couple different professional teams in Europe. And that's been super fun to have them call back and be like, holy cow, listen to what they do over here. Listen to what we did. Listen to what we had to do for field prep. Listen to, I mean, all these different stories that they have. It's super fun to watch them continue to play and they just have fun doing it. It's a whole new level of excitement for them because it's so much different than what they were doing here. Um, if they get into coaching, it's actually really fun for them to call back and be like, okay, here's what we have going on. How do I fix that? And sometimes I don't always have a great answer. It's fun for me to get to think through and say, man, I don't know, I've never had to deal with that. Let's talk through it. Let's logic through it. Let's find a good answer for you and let's find a good way for you to do it because even the way that I would do it might not be the way they should do it with their personality, where everybody's built a little bit different.
So far as a head coach, what have been some of your biggest accomplishment at Weber State?
Well, since I haven't been doing it for a really long time, winning our first game was, I mean, go out and play your first game and win your first game is a cool experience for us. But I think there's a lot more of those big accomplishments to come, watching them progress and work through the things that we're processing through and trusting the process. And I mean, just getting better every day is an accomplishment. It's so hard to just sit down and grind and, you know, get punched in the mouth and get back up and get better. That's a huge accomplishment. Go out and find ways to win. Go out and like, I mean, have our pitchers throw a good tunneled curveball, a good tunnel changeup. I mean, defense turn in double play. Like, there's so many just little accomplishments that lead up to bigger things in the end. But all those little things are so important to celebrate. And I think all of those little things we've been able to get everybody in for at bats. Almost everybody in the lineup has a hit. Almost everybody in the lineup has scored a run. Being Putting the team together and playing as a team is a huge accomplishment.
For you, how was that feeling like getting your first win as a head coach?
I mean, it's exciting. I joke all the time. I didn't win that game. They won that game. It's my job once we get there to just put the lineup together and make sure they're all on the same page. But good coaches don't win ball games. Bad coaches can lose ball games, but good coaches don't win ball games. Their athletes do, and it's up to them to accomplish that goal and work through the things that they've gotten better at. So I'm just excited to be a part of that.
What are some of your future plans for Weber State moving forward?
I'm just constantly getting better. I mean, we have big dreams as far as how far we can go each season, what we can accomplish each season. Um, we're our plans are go to postseason, the NCAA postseason, as many years as possible, win the conference tournament. We haven't done that in a while. So those are some big plans for this year. But I mean, every year moving forward and getting better. I mean, you want to win the conference every year, but if you just win it every year, you're getting better. I mean, there's always growing, there's always things that we want to build on. And so we want to challenge ourselves each year by playing good teams, by finding ways to get better, by recruiting in better recruits that are willing to build the program and take us even farther so that we're competing at the highest level every single day.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college softball?
Take it all in. I think they come in, freshmen come in with so much excitement. They're so ready to just get after it, to play, to be in the starting lineup. And there's so much to be learned from sitting the bench and learning from a teammate. There's so much to learn from going out in your first at bat and striking out. There's so much to learn from playing your first Power Five team. There's so much to learn from run ruling another team for the first like every experience that they get to go through as a freshman is a learning opportunity, and they just need to take it all in.
What advice would you give those softball players that have aspirations of playing professional softball after their playing career?
Know what it is that makes you really good at what you do. Know what it is that makes you successful, and do that as often as possible. You don't have to be somebody else. You don't have to do it a certain way. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no certain body build. There's no certain speed requirement. In softball, if you are really, really good at a certain thing, you can go a long ways if you will execute on that skill as often as possible.
What advice would you give those players that are looking to get started into coaching after their playing career?
Be yourself, be good at what you're good at, the same as if you were going to go play professionally or something like that. But every person is different. Everybody's personalities are different. And so knowing and understanding who you are is vitally important to your success in any aspect, but knowing what you want to accomplish, knowing what your goals are, and then being willing to allow your players to do the same thing is huge. If you're trying to put everybody into a box and you're trying to make everybody a certain way, you're going to have a lot of struggles because you can't do that to people. But being open-minded enough to see how people work, how they think, and how to get them to be the best version of themselves is the greatest accomplishment as a coach.
What advice would you give those head coaches looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
Probably the same thing I just told you. I mean, what do you want to accomplish and how do you want to do it? And you don't have to do it a certain way. There's a way that, I mean, Florida has their way of doing it. Oklahoma has their way of doing it. Texas has their way of doing it. We have our way of doing it. I mean, across the board, there's not a 100% correct process, 100% correct way to do any of those things. You have to have a basic outline, know what you want to accomplish, have a plan, but that plan also has to have flexibility. Every team you bring in, even though we're in college and we graduate our 5 or so seniors and bring in our 5 or so freshmen, the team dynamic changes every year. So you have to have a plan, you have to work through that, and you have to know what you're trying to accomplish. But there has to be flexibility as those different players come in, as the personality changes, as you bring on new staff. I mean, like you would love to have the same staff for 10 years straight, but it's not super realistic. That's something that we have to adapt and adjust to. But that doesn't mean that you can't have the same basic outline of how you're trying to get to where you want to go. But if you're very rigid in that outline, you're going to be miserable because it's not going to fit every single team exactly the same.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the program app?
On our program, it's just WSU softball. I think both on Instagram and all of our other social media handles. My social media handles, I don't really get on my social media very often. Hold on, let me figure out what my social media stuff is for you. Because I think you can just look me up. I think it's Kristin D House. That was all my social media handles, if I remember correctly. Might even be Coach House on my Twitter handle, but I don't get on that one very often.
Thank you again, Coach Kristin Delahoussaye, for your envy and best luck in your future at Weber State as the head softball coach.
Thank you so much.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brain, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Kristin, for your envy and best luck in your future.
Thanks, Brandon.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.